Thank you so much for coming to this panel. Fortunately, there's also going to be a video taken of this panel by these wonderful gentlemen back here. Thank you. So you'll be able to find it online later, as well as resources that are mentioned during the panel. I'm going to put that all up on itsdifferentforgirls.com with the number 4. Itsdifferentforgirls.com. If you're in the right room, if you're looking for branding for entrepreneurs, startups, for the company, as well as personal branding. How many people here work as a talent? All right. How many of you already have a personal branding website that features you and your expertise? Oh, good job. Do you get on social media every day to build your brand? Yay. And how many of you are agencies? Studios? All right, thank you. So I think that most of us know why we need a personal brand. We are going to be referring to that here. But in past panels, we've had casting experts, and they say if it's 50-50 between one person and another, they're going to pick the person who has the social following because they can help promote the project. It's become really a very, very important for that kind of thing. Same for authors and all kinds of things. So we feel personal branding is a very important topic, as well as getting your startup positioned properly. So I want to allow the panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to give you their Twitter handles as we go down. We apologize that they're not written here, but if you can make note of them. We're going to start with Elizabeth Barrutia, which is Barru Advertising, her Twitter handle, @Barru Advertising.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Barrutia. I am the founder and president of Barru Marketing and Media. I've been in the industry for about 22 years and founded my own personal agency about 10 years ago and have been really thrilled and honored to have seen it grow and evolve over the last 10 years. We are an audience-inclusive marketing and media agency that specializes in entertainment, lifestyle, and consumer packaged goods brands. We work with companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal Studios Hollywood, a lot of wineries. So very happy to be here today with these great ladies.
Marsha Collier, @Marsha Collier.
@Marsha Collier. Hiya. I'm Marsha Collier. I had a marketing business before the internet. And to keep my daughter amused, we'd go buy Barbie clothes on eBay when it first started. I was one of the first people to get the hang of eBay, so I was asked, would you be interested in writing a book, eBay for Dummies? And this was in '97. So since then, I've written 48 books, all on small business on the web. I no longer have a marketing business. I had to give that up. How to run a business on eBay, eBay for Dummies. It's in the 9th edition. I've sold over 2 million books in my writing career of about 20 years. And as far as branding, I started out early and I put my email address in the introduction of each book so my readers could contact me. This was before social media. My publisher said, what are you, crazy? You're going to get all kinds of nutty people. But I just went ahead and did it. And when I saw social media, I saw a way to save money, build an audience, build my community. I get questions every day. I wrote Twitter and Facebook for seniors and a couple of books for the AARP too. So I cover it. I love social media. And of course, my roots are still in eBay. So I'm one of the top 10 Forbes influencers. And I love social media. And I've worked hard to build my brand and keep it clean.
Good morning. My name is Debra Fine. I'm the CEO of I Have a Dream Foundation Los Angeles. And we help at-risk youth in Boyle Heights, Inglewood, Watts, all over. What we do is we go in and we provide tutoring, mentoring, field trips, and then we give college scholarships when we go through all the way through high school with them. And before that, I was a combination of an entrepreneur and an executive at large companies like Disney, then started my own company, Cloud9, which was educational children's media. And so it's been very eclectic, but I've tried to keep my brand of, I would say integrity, honesty, something that kids like, something that's family-oriented. So regardless of working in a Fortune 500 company or starting my own company or being in a nonprofit and running that, trying to keep the message similar so it doesn't look like I'm all over the place has been challenging, but I think it's been successful.
Thank you. Erin Kapczynski, and I forgot to give Debra's Twitter handle. It's Debra Lynn, Lynn, fine. And Erin Kapczynski's Twitter handle is Erin K217.
Good choice.
Thanks, Linda. So Erin Kapczynski actually started my career in a billion-dollar CPG company and then transitioned into the digital arena and really never looked back. And since then, it's been a few decades. I've run marketing for kind of large media and technology companies down to startups. So from $12 million budgets to really working with startups, I am now an expert bootstrapper, I feel. So I have all kinds of hacks and building your branding and marketing campaigns. And I've had 2 successful exits. Right now, I am consulting, and most of my clients are in the media and technology space, and I also teach and mentor individuals as well as tech startups through various incubators and on an individual basis.
Thank you. And I'm sorry. Now we have Susan Miller, who is at Astrology Zone.
Hi, I'm Susan Miller. I live in New York. I started my website, astrologyzone.com, in 1995. It has really grown. I now have 105 million page views a year, 16 million uniques a year, 1.3 million a month. We don't know exactly from Google Analytics how many people come in every month, every 2 months, but according to Google, they say 67% are regulars. I write every word. I am an accredited astrologer by the International Society of Astrologic Research. I have apps. I have one app for Apple, Android, Samsung, the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. I'm also on the Apple Watch. I'm on Alexa Echo. And I just released an app in Turkey in Turkish language. I'm building a site in China in the Chinese language. I'm represented by a creative arts agency in China. I've written 10 books, and every month, and I do not syndicate. I don't like that word. It means cookie cutter, and it's a bad word in my world. I write for Vogue Japan, W Korea, Tempo in Turkey, Claudia Brazil, Amiga Italy, Esmoda Spain, Vogue China, and Vogue Germany. I just left In Style, and I'm in talks with different top magazines, their competitors. I guess that, and I'm on social media with, I love social media. I love Twitter. That's my favorite. I have 382,000 followers there. And then Facebook is more of a challenge because people write longer, but I am on Facebook under Susan Miller's Astrology Zone. And it's on my list to get on Instagram. But it's another, I do all my own posting on social media because I feel it's more authentic. And I like to go down to the town square to see what people are talking about.
Thank you. Yes.
I totally forgot, if any of you are into technology, I've had a podcast for like 10 years, which is something that keeps me busy on the sides. Computer and Technology Radio. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. Linda listens all the time. And we love to tweet live with our audience during the show. It's live on Saturdays, but archived on iTunes.
At noon.
And
Join me
iHeartRadio.
live tweeting. Okay, so I am at Linda Sherman, and I lived in Japan for 22 years, where I was CEO of various subsidiaries there. I set up Coors Japan, had a big success with Zima, and ran Club Med, Barilla, and helped Walmart set up over there. I've used that background of enterprise-level marketing and business with social marketing that I do strategy for and help startups with mostly, and I also do personal branding for individuals. Like Marsha, I also like the boomer market. I think it's really important, boomers and seniors. I have a website called Boomer Tech Talk.
Hey, they buy.
They got money. Yes, it's a very important market. And so let's get going with this panel. First of all, we'd like to talk about one of the most important things on branding is differentiation. And I wanted to start with Marsha on that.
What's differentiation, Linda?
So differentiation is your unique selling proposition, how you position yourself against your competitors, what makes you unique.
Well, I think,
That's a big
what
part of
makes
your
you
brand.
special
What makes you
is,
special?
what makes you special is being you. You need to be the best that you can be. If you're not comfortable on social media, if you're not comfortable with your topic, you know, like I mentioned, I branched out into a podcast for technology because I adore technology, and my community was interested in that topic. Obviously, you're on eBay, you're in e-commerce. You like technology, so that's fun. I'm leaving for Munich tomorrow to go to a phone launch for a Chinese phone company. I'm very excited about that. So it makes my life interesting, and I can bring information to and I don't call it an audience. Audience, to me, is a dirty word. It's community, because we're all part of the same community, and what you're interested in, I want to be interested in too, and I want to share things so this is what sets me apart. I'm not constantly selling a thing. I'm with you, and it's worked. 2 million books in 20 years is not bad in 7 languages. So I believe that connecting and engaging with an audience is what will help build your brand.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth.
Yeah, so at Baru, we really like to define ourselves as little giants. And the reason why we define ourselves as little giants is because not only do I have a very big, broad ad agency background and experience, but all of the people on our team, all of our expertise comes from really big agency backgrounds. However, we're a boutique style type of agency, and that's our unique selling proposition to our clients, right? That we can offer what we lack in scale of size, we make up for in service and experience. And so you have top-level senior team members working on the client's accounts on a day-to-day basis. So Little Giants works really, really well for us, but what's funny about it is it took us a long time to get to this notion of being little giants. You know, oftentimes the cobbler's son has no shoes, right? We've all heard that expression. We work in media and marketing every day of our lives. We had a really hard time defining that for ourselves because we were too close to it. And so we've worked with 3 different partners over the years to help us define who we are. And each one of those vendor partners has helped us get a little further along the way. And today, now we're very proud of how we've chosen to define ourselves. And that Little Giants works really well for us in setting us apart because competition is so stiff out there, right? It's a very fierce world. And so you have to find a way to stand behind your differentiation and really mean it and own it. So that works well for us.
Great.
I love Little Giants. Thank you.
Debra.
The differentiation, I think, with the foundation, I Have a Dream Foundation, we're really the only wraparound services for children, provide year-round free, as we said, mentorship, tutoring, healthy snacks, college field trips, everything, all the way from 3rd grade through high school graduation, and then give them college scholarships. So the differentiation is really that we are there for the entire family, and that we're there to raise up the entire community so that we can stop the intergenerational poverty in Los Angeles during our lifetime. And that is I Have a Dream's goal. For myself, it's that I have been in children's educational media, Fortune 500 products. Now I'm on the nonprofit side, been on the board side of chair of the board or had board members. And I also am known for raising money, quite frankly, because I've started several of my own companies. And so I work with many VCs, and I was a venture capitalist with Entertainment Media Ventures for quite some time. So many times people remember, oh, she's the one who started that CD-ROM company that got funded, and she's the one who we should go to raise, $10 million or whatever that is. And yes, I love to do that. Would I want to do that every day? I don't think so, but it depends what part of my career people remember.
Thank you. Erin?
Differentiation is obviously part of building your brand, and the two tenets that I like to look at is whenever you're defining a brand for yourself personally or for your company is it valuable to the community, and is it authentic to you or your company? And a quick example, it doesn't have anything to do with me, but it has to do with a company that I've used. And they're very much a startup. There are only two of them, and they do data and analytics. And instead of naming themselves something that's pretty, standard or descriptive, the name of the company is Little Lion. And the reason it's Little Lion is because the principal is this tiny, fierce, 4'11" female, and she's a go-getter, and she's detail-oriented, and she's an extreme expert in what she does. And they're getting fantastic traction. And I think the branding is really on point for them.
Great, thank you. And you had a very important point, Susan, about your website that I want you to share.
When
for
I
differentiation.
started my site, Time Warner came to me and said, we need an astrology column, something short for women every day. I said, no, something long for men and women once a month. They said, whoa, won't people just come in and out and leave? I said, not the way I'm going to write.
Bravo.
And they said, I said, look, this is not a female thing, wanting to know about the future. And let me first put it out there that astrology is not a religion, and it is not about predestination. There's so much misinformation out there. If you study astrology, you'll know when to act and when to hold back and what questions to ask. It will make you successful. It will also help you find the talents within that you can develop if you choose. You have free will. So I said to them, I will write long, I will write detailed, and people will have to come back several times in the month to check on the dates. And they said, well, how long are you going to write? And at the time, I said 17,000 words a month. I'm now writing between 36 and 46,000 a month, divided by 12 signs. They said, won't you get tired? I said, me tired? No, I don't get tired. I've only gotten more energy as I go along. They said, well, why would you do all this? Because we don't have that much to pay you. First of all, I said, we should have the best website there is. And I went like this, we are big. We are Time Warner. I wasn't even hired yet, and I'm already saying we. And they looked at me, and I said, my mother knew astrology, and she said, I have Aquarius on them in heaven. And first I would start in the world writing. No one in my family writes for a living. I majored in business. But she said, you will write, and then when you get to close to 40, some newly invented form of communication, so new, we don't know the name of it yet, but it will change the way you work and be the channel in which you make your ultimate contribution to the world. And I looked at Harvard, Yale, and Dartmouth across the table, and I went like this. Don't you see? This is my destiny. And they let me do whatever I wanted to. They said, time is not going to stand in your way. And I have to give them credit. Some companies would stand in your way. And we looked at the editor, and I said, well, we better get her approval. She'll have a lot to edit. And so everyone looked at Anne. Editors are always Anne or Emily. She was sitting there. Haven't you noticed that? And she said, go for it. I love this. And I think if you write from your heart, everything starts with the attitude. If you love your reader, and I always talk in the singular, I don't see them in the plural. One reader at a time. I am talking to one. I don't use a bullhorn, oh, all Taurus. I'm not like that. I'm not that in real life. I'm not that way on paper. You will learn about yourself as you create, because it will become a reflection of you. You don't have to overthink it. It's a natural, organic process. It's from your heart. If you care, it will show. If you're doing this just for money, you will fail, because money's not enough. You have to do something to make a difference to people.
Okay, thank you. And there was that little bit about CX, the navigation for the customer being really important, and put money into it.
Well, it should be
But-
easy, yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we're going to go on to the sphere of writing. And by the way, Ronjini Joshua is going to show up. Oh, there she is. She's our PR person, and she is at Ronjini, and she got stuck in horrible traffic. So be careful of that. Can you make it?
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry about that.
Okay, there you go. Okay. So we're on writing, and Ronjini has a book, PR for Startups. And so we're talking about writing books. So we're going to start with you talking about your PR for Startups.
Awesome. So
We don't have enough of these, so we'll
Oh.
share.
How'd that happen?
good. I have a project. My background, just a little bit. I own a PR agency. We work with startups mostly, and then we're a startup ourselves. So. A lot of the things that we've done for branding have really been revolved around giving out free education and educating our clients in a way of actually providing services as well. So it's kind of like we are dual purposing by giving people, things that they need to know about PR for their company themselves, but also marketing our services, because typically what ends up happening is we usually give them advice that they would love to implement on their own, and we actually tell them how to do that. But a lot of people just don't have the bandwidth, and I think that's coming with running any kind of business. Do what you're good at is usually what we try to tell people to do. So PR for Startups is a book that's really focused on almost selling myself out of a job of explaining to people how we do what we do, so they could do it themselves if they wanted to. Gives really in-depth information on how to reach out to the media, how to pitch journalists, when is the right time to do all those things, and then gives them the guidebook. It's also it'll also actually be released as a workbook, and it gives them the guide to be able to do it themselves. And then obviously when or if they need help, we're there to kind of back them up. So it's a really great marketing and branding tool for us, but it also actually helps us give them the background information that they need, because a lot of startups that we work with really just don't know how PR works, and they have, kind of crazy expectations. And so it really helps set expectations, and it actually gives them a little bit of insight of what is it we do from day to day, and allows them to be able to kind of test the waters by doing it themselves. And it's a different level of appreciation when you're walking in someone else's shoes. So that is the book. Is going to be coming out January 2018. But yeah, we're kind of doing it as a marketing effort, but also as a little bit of an education effort too, so that the people that we do work with in the future, any startups or anything like that, will have kind of a base to start off of, and they'll be able to ask the right questions, and whether it's us they hire as a PR agency or someone else, at least they'll be well educated, because I feel like especially in PR and especially in this media environment, a lot of people are not very happy with PR people. And so it's also a nice way to be able to give them an understanding on what they should expect versus like what they think they should expect.
Marsha, you've written a lot of books. Can you give them some advice about writing books?
Well, there are several reasons for writing a book. There's people who say, I want to write a book. I have so much to say. Probably not a good reason for writing a book. There's another reason, and that's marketing yourself. And it can be very effective as a marketing tool. If you want to make a career in public speaking, you want to travel a lot, you want to be dealing with your book all the time, that's great. You want to do that, but I can pretty much guarantee you that it's very hard to make that jump from author to speaker that's getting $10,000 a talk. It's a big deal. You've got a very smart way of doing it, is you'll draw them into your company. So that's brilliant. If you really love the topic and you want to share the information, that's why I wrote. It works, because people can see that in your words. I mean, like Astrology Zone was saying earlier, you talk to the people. People read my books. They say it's like sitting across the kitchen table from you. And that's my goal. I want to connect with people, and I want to empower them to do their best in business. But I can tell you the worst reason to write a book, and that's because you think you're going to make money.
Yeah.
I can tell you that after 48 books, I'm doing fine, thank you. I get a nice check regularly. But I update my books every 18 months, the top sellers every 18 months. I keep on it. It's a job, it's a business. But one book is not going to make you rich. And when you hear $200,000 advance, oh really? Just so you know, that's usually paid in advance for appearances, for all kinds of things. It doesn't end up, unless you're obviously a big politician, it doesn't end up to be that much money. So write something that you think people are going to buy. And if you don't think they're going to buy it, don't write it.
Another type of writing is getting bylines and being quoted in the press. And Elizabeth, you're doing a great job at getting that kind of stuff. Can you talk about that?
So we have the great fortune of having a PR firm that we work with that helps get our name out there. And so they help us put our name, Baru, which is me, I am Baru, right? It's my name on the door, so that's the brand that I exude for the entire company. But they help us get in front of reporters and editors of magazines like Ad Age and Media Week and The Hollywood Reporter. So being a go-to person that these editors and staff writers can come to as an authority on the subjects is really important. And another thing that we do regularly now is we write bylines so that we can be published in our marketing and media outlets. So it's another way to find clients. It's a business development tool, but it's also a branding tool at the same time. And it's also a good way to keep top of mind, not only among prospective clients, but in the community at large, right? Among your competitive set.
Ronjini, can you explain how people can go about getting those bylines?
Yeah.
and
There's
quotes?
actually it's not as difficult as it might sound. There is a collection of, I would say, about 10 top-tier publications that can regularly take contributors. You just wouldn't know it because it's a little bit hidden underneath, like, kind of a layer of editorial review. But typically, you could actually even just, as simple as Google contributed byline articles, and you'll see some lists pop up, and Forbes takes regular contributors, Huffington Post, Inc. We're actually doing a couple for Inc. and Fast Company right now. But you really, when you're pitching your article, that's where the kind of skill comes into play, is you really have to give them a detail on what value you're going to give to the readers, because they want to make sure that you're not marketing your business directly. They want to show that these people are experts in their industry, as she was saying, and that they're going to provide you something that you could take home or take away with to create some kind of action for you. So you should be able to read the article and collect some information and be able to do something with it. And I think that's why a lot of people, I mean, aside from also just making a lot of the editorial departments smaller in most publications these days, they're dying for contributed content, but it needs to be really quality focused and not focused so much on selling your brand, but really selling your knowledge. And that's what content marketing is all about. But you can get some really good ones that are editorial, like I mentioned, Fast Company and Inc. and Huffington Post. And then some of them allow you to become like regular contributors as well. So you could actually pitch columns to some of these. I think Forbes is one of the ones where you can actually pitch a column and then just have like an ongoing set of thought leadership there. And it's a great way to build your brands, build your expertise, and then also kind of leads to that whole like idea of, okay, maybe someone will also see my articles and want me to speak somewhere. So these are like different resources you could start building up to create a profile for yourself online before you kind of go out on the road.
Quick thing, I just want to say on contributing articles on what you said. Once you've established your brand and people know that you're an expert, I work with agencies like that who may have a client who want an expert to do the writing. So I get paid to write. They want my byline to write about content marketing. It's not a straight pitch. It works, and they love it. So I get paid, and I did my contributions for a long time.
Huffington Post never pays, and that's why nobody in New York trusts it. None of us read it. Because, you know, she even had a lawsuit, Ariana, when she was still there. She pays the editors to clean up the junk, but they don't pay their writers. And almost any Tom, Dick, or Harry can write for Huffington Post.
And what's interesting about that,
It's not
actually,
She had a
respected.
follow-up, and then I'll come back to you,
Do they pay
Debra.
you for the, you know, the other people?
No, all of these are contributed, so none of them are.
Well, I'm a contributing editor, but I get paid. See, that's an important point.
You kind of build up to that.
Yeah.
Just Elizabeth had something?
You know, it's interesting because a few weeks ago, we were approached by Forbes to become a contributing editor, but for financial monetization, meaning they wanted us to pay in order to
wanted you to pay.
participate. Yes, and so now they have separate groups. Yes, they have separate specialties or forums, rather, that they want
Susan,
different
please.
contributing partners to be members of. And they're offering this as almost like a concierge service as well. So they're going out to
That's like
agencies.
advertorial.
In a way, yes. So they're monetizing their
There's
editorial.
something else going on. Reporters started calling me, and I would do all the research, give them all the material, and they'd get paid and they'd get the byline. So I stopped that. I said, look, if you want a story, I will write it. I'm certainly qualified.
Right.
And in England, they let me, this one past month. No, I've really put a stop to it because you're doing all the work and they're getting
Well, how
paid,
about the
you know?
email that you get? Here's 10 questions. Would you please answer these
In
for my
writing.
post?
Yeah.
And then I answered them back and I said, honey, I thought you were going to interview me. If I wanted to write a post, I'd write my own.
Yes.
I have a blog that gets plenty of traction. So, you know, you have to judge who's asking and the quality of who's asking. I use, is it Alexa or I forget, there is a website where you can gauge how many visitors go to any site.
Yeah.
And I honestly,
Well, Alexa.com, which you
Right.
pay for, is very good.
right.
Go ahead, Debra.
Yes, I would just like to say I do write for the Huffington Post. I've written several times for the Huffington Post and CNN, and I'm interviewed quite a bit, radio, television, et cetera. And one of the reasons is about 4 years ago, I was shot 4 times by a mass murder gunman, John Zwahari, in the Santa Monica college shooting. And I was the only survivor. And I wrote a book, and it's called Trauma, From Trauma to Triumph, with stories of so many people who have overcome so much. So from that, turning that into an experience and into something that other people can see that they're not alone, that people have gone through terrible things and come out the other side. That's been, I wanted to do that in order to give back, because there's no reason in the world I should have survived. I was the only survivor. So that also took me forward into I Have a Dream Foundation to really help the kids to not get into gangs and to get them before they get the guns. So I would say I've been interviewed a tremendous number of times for that, but now for I Have a Dream Foundation as well, because of DACA and our dreamers. And our dreamers aren't necessarily undocumented at all. It's just a name we affectionately call them, which is dreamers. So I think that writing for Huffington Post or many others can be very rewarding, if not monetarily, in other ways.
I wanted to segue from back from books and bylines to social media writing. And Marsha is the kind of the person that I refer everybody to watch what she's doing to learn how to do social media, because she's so awesome on social media. So I'd like you to talk about social media a little bit generally, and then give us your Twitter tips, if you could.
This is going to be short. As a matter of fact, in a couple of weeks, I'm speaking to all the Cal State University social media practitioners at a conference, because there are some best practices in social media, but I can give them to you in a nutshell. Read what people say. Respond to what people say. It doesn't have to be in real time. I check social media twice a day. Not as good with Facebook, but Twitter, because it's immediate and people want answers. You got to answer them. You've got to have respect for your community. They're not your audience. Don't like us on Facebook. Join us on Facebook. Be part of our community. Even my website, coolibetools.com, says we're all in this together. That's the first thing you're going to see. And social media is all about engagement and transparency. Don't go lying. Don't go off topic. Don't talk all about yourself. Be part of your community and give them information. You can't write everything on the planet that you need to share on social media. You just can't. I share 12 articles a day that I curate myself, and it's kind of fun. It's like being a newspaper editor. I read the internet all the time, and I curate articles, and I put them in buffer.com, and I have a schedule. And don't tweet all over yourself. In other words, right? One after another. I mean, I was sitting here, I had things to tweet. Share next, because I have a schedule, and I may be sharing about this event till the end of the day, but I'm not going to write over myself. And this way, your audience isn't barraged. They're comfortable with you. I think I'm at 198,000 followers. I have no idea. I'm a verified account. But I don't pay attention to the numbers. I care about engagement, and that's what will make your brand on social media.
Almost every time she tweets, she gets retweeted 50 times, 50 plus.
I don't know, unless the Russians are retweeting me. When that happens, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
Outsourcing. Outsourcing, Ronjini, you were going to talk about outsourcing.
Yeah,
and Marsha had a little
I
something.
think we were talking about outsourcing on a few different levels. And for us, you know, as PR people, we do a lot of outsourcing of content and content creation. But obviously, the best thing always to do is to do as much as you can yourself. However, some people don't have bandwidth to do it yourself. So when you're outsourcing, you're, you know, really identifying the opportunities that you think that you can still control in some way. I always feel like you should always have kind of a last touch on everything. You can't just outsource and expect people to have your voice and then let them go crazy. I would never do that, but I would definitely say, you know, outsourcing and training probably should go hand in hand, just to get the right voice, the right engagement, the right sense of community, as she was saying, because you don't want to start having someone project their own things. And I mean, we've seen a lot of like social media snafus where people are like accidentally tweeting things, you know, interns are doing the wrong thing. I mean, it's kind of a delicate situation, but when we do it, We have to go through an extensive training process to make sure people have the right voice, even the right images, the right branding, the right text, like phrases, making sure that, they're on par. And then I always have a last set of eyes on it, because at the end of the day, it's great to have someone help you, but if it's the wrong message, I'd rather just not put anything out at all.
Ronjini, and sentiment too, right?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
sentiment is an important metric.
Absolutely.
Explain what that is. 'Cause
No. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's you're measuring a lot of different things, right? You're gonna have either a positive or a negative or a neutral tone on a lot of the things that you're writing. And so having someone else come in and have that sentiment for you is a little bit challenging. And I mean, that's the whole thing. I think Marsha is a little partial to posting yourself, right?
Yeah.
Which I think.
But I am my brand.
Right,
You're talking
right.
for a business, and that's a different story.
Right, and that's 100%, the right thing to do when you can do it. I even have an assistant who helps me post stuff, but again, she never posts anything that I don't look at. So as a company, as a brand, as a person, nothing should go out the door without you looking at it for sure. But there's a lot of different ways to kind of outsource. That's social media side. Blogging is another thing that sometimes we actually use experts in the field. We actually use influencers to brand content with a lot too. So, people who do write for other publications or blogs, or we see have a really good following. We recently worked with this fintech company, and we reached out to other bloggers and experts in the community to co-brand with us. We kind of gave them an interview on the types of things that we do and what we're looking for, and they added their expertise on their thoughts and trends on the industry, and we basically combined those two things to create content. So that's another way of kind of outsourcing, but not really. They're still an expert, and you trust their opinion. People follow them, and it kind of helps us gain followers from their group too.
You had one interesting comment on sentiment, on how you're perceived with your sentiment too, right? Like if you're negative, people will start.
Oh yeah, you have to choose your words really carefully in social media. You can say the same thing in two different ways. You can say, gosh, what a crappy day today is today, and the world is falling apart. Or you could say, hopefully tomorrow will be a better day, and we'll all get together and do something positive. Same message, but the sentiment, and believe it or not, they're out there, the agencies, the world, it's called sentiment analysis, and everything you say has a sentiment analysis. And it was funny that people were very upset one time because I work so hard at being positive. I never like to give a negative message because people need positivity. And I never criticize.
We're going to get to you. Susan, you're going to, I'm going to get to you. So what we're talking about now is selecting our language and how we phrase things. And I know that Susan has banned words, so.
Yeah, when I joined In Style, I said, I have a list of banned words that I would hope you will not use in my edit. If you edit and substitute words. It's not only social media, it's anything you write. Words that you use are the spices you put in your soup, and how it will taste depends on the words you're choosing. And I'm very careful about words. Now, for example, October's a tough month. There are for example, the new moon, October 19th, is a difficult one, but I can't keep it from my readers. I say to myself, if my friend is there and I see a bus coming, I have to push her out of the way or him out of the way. And so I have to tell my readers. Also, too many people know astrology. They'll say, Susan Miller, why did you leave that out? So I have to address it, but not overemphasize it, not make people want to go out on the ledge. We're all a little fragile right now with the news and everything else. I want to keep them happy and optimistic, like you say, and but yet I have to address subjects that are a little tough and give them ideas of how to deal with it.
Well, you sell more in the end. You make more money. if you're positive than if you're negative. I mean, in the end, right? Wouldn't you agree, Susan? You get more readers.
But money is never the first thing in my head.
Yeah.
Grace.
I can't pay my bills
Heart,
with
beauty.
So,
I don't know.
when we talk about selecting how we phrase things, you're right, it's not just social media. We're talking about public speaking, we're talking about books, we're talking about all kinds of writing. And I'd like you, Marsha, to give them the tips that you got in that really expensive media training that you got.
Okay, I did. I'll save you several $1,000s. I took a media training with Comcor. That's the company, PR, you all know. They handled there was a Tylenol scandal where bottles of Tylenol were poisoned, and they had to recover from that. So I took training with them because once I wrote a book, I was getting interviewed by tons of people, and I mean, my first video on the Today Show, I'm kind of like, So I had to get over that quickly. So I constantly, because of my podcast too, I take voice lessons. Constantly. I read commercials to myself out loud. And in this training, they taught me one thing, and if you've ever been interviewed, you know you generally cannot direct the interview. These people are experienced, they know what they're doing. But you don't have to answer everything they say. You have in your mind, and I was taught this, and it proves it, and if you watch interviews, you'll see it. You can get 3 points across in any media interview. And as long as you keep those 3 points in your head, they may ask you something else, right? But you go, oh yeah, and when we were talking about, and drive it back home. Now, when you watch interviews now on the news, you'll see, especially really good politicians, will be driving it back to their point, because that three thoughts can only be put across in an interview.
Can I tell kind of a funny
Sure.
story about that? I was CEO of Cloud9 Media, so that was children's educational media. And at the time, there was all this about being public. I had a public company. And so the Wall Street Journal said, so do you now have to be more careful because you're public and worry about your shareholders? And I said, well, what I'm doing outside of the company does reflect on the company. For instance, if I was driving drunk and got pulled over or something like that, that would be so terrible for the shareholders. So a couple of days, and then I went on to say all kinds of things about the public markets and going on road shows, everything else. They interviewed 3 men and asked them the same questions. A few days later, my husband comes into the bedroom at 6 o'clock in the morning and he said, you might want to read this. I read it, and it quoted, Debra Fine said that if she were driving around drunk, that would be a problem for her board of directors with having a public company. And I threw the covers back over my head and absolutely refused to get out of bed. So I had to then go forward and undo that and try to get them to return. Anyway, you have to be careful. Yes.
They say the press is not your friend.
That's right.
Believe it.
Right.
They are and they're not. You know what I mean? But you have to be careful.
Right.
Erin?
The thing is that language is really important in every aspect of your life. Think about even in your personal relationships, how you phrase something to your significant other when you're having a disagreement. I mean, it shapes, the language you use really shapes the idea and the perception of that idea. And we know that perception is often the reality. And politics, as Marsha has touched on, and various panelists here, politicians are amazing at language manipulation and perception. Just think of when I say the word abortion versus when I say the word choice.
Right. Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do think that it penetrates every aspect of communication from a company or from the individual at every level.
And of course, in PR, from Ronjini, she has to advise people on
Yeah,
words.
absolutely. I mean, from a different perspective, if we went into politics a little bit, but even from our perspective of positioning and how you want yourself to be seen, how you want your company to be perceived, every phrase makes a difference. And when we're pitching, I mean, obviously I'm pitching media all the time. So we do a lot of A/B testing, which is kind of like the fun part. But I mean, testing these subject lines and the direction of how we get the media to respond. a lot of times I have to go back and think, okay, well, if I'm talking about this topic right now, what is the phrase that would make me respond? And I'm literally saying the same thing 3 different ways. So, it's nice to make sure that you are taking a step back or testing it on people around you to say, okay, well, what is your perception of what I'm saying? Like, am I saying, is what I'm saying making sense to you? Or should I say it in a different way? Or do you like it this way? Is it positive? Is it negative? Sentiment comes into play there. So for us pitching, it's very important because it's all about getting the attention of the press. And then when we have a conversation with them, we can, direct them in different ways by rerouting in them and stuff like that. But getting them hooked, that is a really like a 5 to 6 word event where you really have to choose those particular words very, very, very carefully.
Elizabeth, you had something in the sphere of business development on language and the way you are in that kind of...
So Marsha tapped into this a bit. I think you're probably referring to the acting, right? So Marsha tapped into the fact that she's had the opportunity to get great media training, and I know there are a lot of actors in the room. It's an investment. It is. It's an investment. But for those people who might not be actors in the room, I was trained as an actor and was a child actress doing a lot of theater, commercial work, and a singer as well. And that's really helped me in a business development space. It's helped me in knowing how to craft my words carefully. It's also helped me be in front of large groups of people and give presentations and being very deliberate with how I'm delivering those presentations. So those skills have enabled me to launch my own business. They've enabled me to grow my business. They've also enabled me to grow other people's businesses as well. So I think it's very important to craft that and be very mindful.
So everybody should take an improv class, right?
Yes, so tips for those for those of you who may not have the acting background, who do want to develop that, take the improv class, take the acting class. If you don't have the wherewithal to do that, practice in front of a mirror. I practice in front of mirrors all the time, right? Voiceover classes are huge. So
And cheaper.
yes.
Voiceover classes are cheaper than improv classes?
Than acting, yeah.
Than the acting classes.
Because you don't have as many people wanting to be voiceover. And it's great.
It's a good
because
tip.
you have experts and you learn how to speak, how to keep the ums and the uhs out of your words.
That's a very good tip. Okay, so on getting speaking engagements, Erin, you had some tips on how to get speaking engagements.
Yeah, sure. Well, this goes back a little bit to defining yourself and bringing value to your community/audience. In that, really, I found that giving back is the best way. So I've joined incubators where I mentor tech startups, and I also teach at various organizations. For example, the Lyle Library, which is downtown, associated with the LA Chamber of Commerce. I teach a digital marketing and branding class there, and through that, a couple of things are happening. One is you get a chance to network and to meet different people, and people start to remember you for your expertise in a particular area, and then you start to build relationships that way. And funny enough, it didn't just help me with get other engagement and be positioned as an expert. It actually, in my consulting practice, some of my clients came from those kinds of environments. So really, it's a dual. I feel that it's a dual benefit for something like that.
Great. Ronjini?
Yeah, and I think to that, how to get them is another kind of practice that PR people kind of do a lot of, depending on when we're working with executives and stuff like that. But I think first is to identify the kinds of opportunities that you want and the crowd that you want to speak to. I think that's really important to be doing something with a meaningful backbone to it, of course. So what is the audience that you're looking to reach, and what do you want to tell them? And this kind of goes to whole idea of give a little bit of information for free, so that they feel like they've been educated a little bit, and you're giving back to some degree when you're doing that as well. But identifying the audience and then finding out where they are as far as like whether it's a trade show or like things like Digital Hollywood, obviously we're speaking to a specific audience of people that are interested in a certain type of content. Depending on your vertical industry, there's a lot of different ways. Once you identify those shows or trade shows or conferences, you can typically find a submission period where you can submit yourself and your bio and maybe even a topic to the conference organizers. And then there's also opportunities where you can submit a panel. So you can actually like create a panel yourself and then, you know, submit it that way. And your most likely aspects of getting that panel is to make sure that it hits for the audience that's going to be at that particular show. One of like the biggest in our industry, one of the biggest ones is South by Southwest every year, and you know, working with the panel picker, and that one is a lot by vote as well as by curation. So you have to go in, I believe it's at least for South by Southwest, I think it's like 9 months in advance, 9 to 12 months in advance.
Yeah, I was talking to someone today, we're already planning our panel for 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what, in April, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so so some of these conferences are a little bit shorter. It could be anywhere from 3 months to anywhere from a year in advance that you have to kind of look these conferences up. And then, you know, come up with a compelling idea and submit. And then, like the South by Southwest panel picker, it also goes up for a vote. So each conference is a little bit different, but you should be able to find details. And I would say, you know, if you're planning to do some kind of brand awareness for yourself, or for the company, or for your, you know, personal brand, identify these things a year out, and you know you have to have like that time frame to be able to do that research and apply for those things. And eventually people will start coming to you. But in the beginning, you can just submit yourself, and it's just as good.
I wanted to correct, it's 2019.
Oh,
that
2019,
We're working
okay.
on that right now for South by.
Wow.
I'm going to be alive then.
Yeah.
Susan, you look like you wanted to say something.
Mine's a little different because I speak to the wide general public, and my editors put me together with advertisers like Dior, Chanel, you know, Chopard watches, Monet, Champagne, and we do events. And my audience, 44% has master's degrees and 43% have college degrees. So 77% are extremely well educated. And then the normal median household income is two groups, 100,000 a year and 150,000 a year. And all live in big cities, pretty much. New York and LA are my two biggest cities, but London is third. You know, you can get your help through your editor or whoever you're working with. You know, maybe I always work with their PR department with my PR department. I have Donna Schumann here in Los Angeles for book signings and events. I have Sarah Miller for digital only, digital projects and digital everything, you know, possibilities, big jobs. And then I have a manager in New York. And I have Weidi Li in China for all things Chinese. So I have help now, but I didn't in the beginning. I did everything myself. And you can. Everything grows organically. And you get to a point where you deserve the appearances. You have to build your authority and show you know what you're talking about. And your competition is going to be copying you, so you have to be different. Luckily, my voice is different. My readers tell me, this girl on YouTube is reading your summaries, and she's saying it's hers.
Yeah, but Susan, you have to keep your eyes straight ahead, and that's probably what you do. You can't worry about your competition most of the time.
No, you can't.
You have to
But
do
you have
what
to
you
stay,
do best.
You know, if you put up your feet, they'll steal your shoes. You have to keep.
That's for sure. Good line.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
I like
That is a good
I like
line.
that.
Thank
That's
you.
tweetable.
Yeah, you have to keep.
And once you get that business set up, one of the things you need to worry about is customer service. So, Debra, you want to kick that off with the customer service that you do in your current organization, because it's
Absolutely. With I Have a Dream Foundation, obviously our donors, whether that's corporations, foundations, individuals, they really want to know that what they've given, what they've done, has been used and appreciated. And so we have an absolute calendar of what we do to say thank you, to have the kids write letters, to invite them to events, and to really make sure that they know that what they've done has created something that's better in our community. So it's always, if they give $50, I'll send an email saying, thank you so much. You've just helped our children get healthy snacks for the whole year. And that's true. And then they'll come back and say, well, I can give more. And it's like, no, that's okay. Anything helps, truly. So it's letting people know that they're special and important to your business. What they've done has been recognized, and then that you keep up the conversations with them. And that's when they really, really do feel appreciated and they're needed. So that's what we've learned, is to always make sure that we're constantly talking to them and telling them the results of what they've done.
And that's what makes them become repeat donors and advocates
Absolutely.
for your brand.
Yes,
that helps you
ambassadors.
promote your business and
Yes.
make it, or your organization in your case, and makes
Yes.
it even bigger the next year. So.
Marsha actually has a Cust Serve chat. It's hashtag Cust Serve on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. PST. And I'd like, could you just give them a
Well, real quick, I had a crazy idea in 2010, because I'm a customer service fanatic. I love great service, right? Most of you do too. And I came up with an idea, it was actually 2009, that why shouldn't customer service be handled over social media? So in 2011, my first book, the first book came out called The Ultimate Online Customer Service Guide, where I proposed that social media should be the hub for customer service. And surprise, it worked, and I've worked with Federal Express, American Airlines, a lot of big brands, to bring them onto social, and they're doing a great job. If you ever tweet to a brand, I won't do business with a brand that won't answer my tweets or help me out. So we have a chat, if customer service is your interest, every Tuesday night on Twitter at 6 p.m., hashtag CustServe, and we've been doing it for 10 years. 10 years? No, since 2009, so that's 8 years. I originally started it as research for my book to see what people thought of this crazy idea I had.
I do want to add to that. We always make sure, if we have companies that we're working with, like Sugarfina or the Rams or the Clippers or so many companies, because it gives them a halo effect if they're working with a nonprofit and they're helping. So we always make sure that we're on Instagram with them, we're tweeting, we have blogs, we're always tagging them and saying, thank you so much. We take pictures everywhere we go when we have an event with any of them. And they really appreciate that as well, and then they share, so we all help each other.
Yeah, I love the word halo effect.
It
That's
is.
great, yeah.
It's 11:48, and we're supposed to end at 12, but there's nobody in this room afterwards. So I want to open it up to questions.
And again, this gets back to what we discussed on transparency and being real on social media. They use auto bots to answer, so it looks like they're engaging. And you can see right through those. It's really easy. Try Twitter support. Try to DM to Twitter support. They have a bot. It's the most frustrating experience on the planet. It's impossible. But that will give you a good demonstration on what a bad bot is. And yeah, they don't really care enough either to have enough people to man their customer service, or they don't. A good customer service team for a brand on social has a direct line to all the different, product, if it's an airline, reservations, to frequent flyer points, to all the different questions. And the best thing for any of you is write down the questions that you're asked. Keep a record of them. That's where you can build your FAQ for your website, frequently asked questions. People don't do that. People ask you questions every day about what you do. Save those questions and answer them online on your website.
Okay, so do we go back to the traditional, try to find a phone company for the phone?
Yeah, you have to, obviously, if it's a financial issue, you
It's not
have to.
finance, this is customer service, but this, I can't even go into the store without
Yeah, I would,
Literally, they tried to have me 5150. They haven't heard the last of this.
you know what I would do, rather than a phone call, I would write a letter. I would copy the CEO of the company. I would copy the head of customer service. I would find all the email addresses I could on the web and copy everybody. I once got an email back from Jeff Bezos, so you can get heard. But you have to do it in writing, because writing is something that doesn't go away. And as a tip, my father told me never put anything in writing you didn't want on the front page of the New York Times. So be careful what you put in that letter.
Oh, that's why I haven't tweeted them back yet.
But right.
I downloaded his picture. I'm like, don't put that on Twitter right now.
No. You get more with honey than vinegar. You know that.
Hey,
She got a honey pack in her.
have to drink it to stay sweet.
You have another question? Yes.
Question. What would you share a scenario what you did to protect the brand? What lengths that you went to protect the brand?
Should I?
We have a bunch of those stories here, I know.
Well, first of all, when you get your federal trademark, you have to protect it or you will lose it. The government tells you that. I have 46 domain names around the world because everybody's pretending to be me. We had such a problem in China that we have to actually build a mirror site to astrologyzone.com because we needed just the place, the verified place. But you're always protecting your brand. I don't even like the word brand. It is brand, but it seems so hard and corporate. You're protecting your reputation, your tone on Twitter. You can never engage a troll. You must be the person who walks through fragrant gardens and keeps her head high.
Always positive.
Right?
Yes.
You cannot get into a debate. You're going to lose. And the people around that debate are on your side, but they'll be too afraid to say anything.
I know, and it's hard.
You
And then they
wish
direct
would
message
say
you,
something,
and they
but
say,
won't.
I'm on your side, I'm on your side, but they'll just sit there. This happened to me once,
Yeah.
a bunch of mean girls.
And when you get letters, you have to say, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I just had a tweet, and one man said, what's the matter with you, Susan? You haven't said a word about the shootings in Las Vegas. And I said, thank you for bringing that to my attention, because I have felt so frozen, and I didn't have anything articulate to say about it. But because you tweeted that to me, I looked up the city birth of Las Vegas, and I discussed it. I gave so that other astrologers could see when the charter was written. But I thanked the person who criticized me.
Positive spin.
You have to. There was one point where 3 people were saying, Susan's not writing her horoscopes anymore, her mother is. Well, my mom died 5 years ago, and she never had a computer. But I'm wondering where this is coming from. And one of the haters said, the real Susan would give a little anecdote, a little personal story, or a little illustration of what, the topic she's talking about. And I'm like, oh, they like that. Oh. So you'll see now I'm sprinkling little anecdotes, little things that I remember, much more personal. I wasn't sure if they liked it, but the haters gave me that feedback. And you have to listen to the haters. They'll make you better.
So basically, you're evolving your brand based on community input. So it's like give and take.
Yeah, from
That's
each
great.
reader.
I have a great
Elizabeth
story.
has a story.
This is a great story.
I'm
I think-
somehow going to ground it down to 1 minute.
Right. I'll try my best. So, protecting your brand is all about hopefully knowing what people want, right? And if you can prepare for the absolute worst and you hope for the very best, hopefully you have a leg up, right? So I had been introduced to a client by a colleague, a very trusted colleague and mentor of mine throughout the years, who introduced us to a film producer on a project, and we worked for months, like 3.5 months, building out a marketing and media plan. And this was at the very beginning of my agency. We probably spent over 1,000 hours working on a media plan. And when we delivered it, And there was a change of hands in the ownership of the project, and it ended up in the hands of our media plan, which had all of the rights on it, all the intellectual property, all the caveats were there, but it ended up in the hands of a Wall Street investor who also happened to be an attorney. And he said, well, I'm not going to pay this fee. I'm not going to pay you for all your thousands of works and your 3 months and your staff. I'm going to take this plan and I'm going to shop it on Madison Avenue. Now, he didn't tell me that, but he underestimated my connections. He underestimated my ability to be in the know because I was here on the West Coast. And so he shopped it up and down Madison Avenue, and I started getting phone calls. I started hearing rumors that my plan was being shopped, and that's intellectual property, right? So he called me and he said, thank you so much. We're not going to pay you as you've been demanding to be paid. We found somebody else to do it for us. But I had one thing that he didn't realize that I had. I had the commercial because we had produced everything. And I had the only copy of that commercial. So I very simply and graciously said to him, that's fine. You can have somebody implement the plan, but what are you going to run? You can implement it, but what commercial is going to run on television? And he said, well, the one that's been produced. And I said, but who has it? And he just fell dead silent. And he said, when do you want payment by? So I had him over a barrel. I was able to get paid. And then we didn't end up implementing the plan. Somebody else implemented the plan. And he got his commercial.
Which happens, but you got paid.
I got paid.
And you paid your bills.
And I paid my bills, and I paid my employees.
Exactly.
So, which is the most important part.
And that was one of your startup tips, is always
Yes.
meet your payroll. Since that was the last question, I just wanted to do a couple of startup tips at the end of this. Debra, would you do yours, please?
Yes. So after I left Disney, I started Cloud9 and technology company, interactive learning for children. And so I went from a behemoth company with a very, very big name to Cloud9. I wrote the business plan and the financials, how to partner, and went out to meet all the venture capitalists. I wanted to raise $3 million. And I didn't know that I couldn't. So nobody said that it's almost impossible to raise money from venture capitalists, especially on Sand Hill Road in San Francisco. You're a woman, you're trying to get a tech company funded, it's never going to happen. I'm sure people were saying that. My husband later, who was only a boyfriend at the time, so he's lucky he didn't say it, but he said he never thought I would get it funded. And when people say no, that's when I get started. Because, no, you don't understand. You should not be saying no. This is huge. And I made sure I already had distribution in place because that was the biggest thing. They wanted to know that I had a big name behind me for distribution. And I raised the money for that in 3 more rounds. And then Sega came in as a distribution partner and bought us. So I would say with startups, 1, make sure that it isn't just what you love, that it's what people want out there in the market. 2, it is all about people. People invest in people, have a great team. And why was a woman granted X millions of dollars in venture capital? Well, it was technology, but it was children's education. So they could get over it a little bit, the fact that I, was going to run this company. But I would say really have a great team, a great plan. Things are going to take longer. It's going to be more money. And just don't even think that you can't do it. It's the main thing.
I would add to that, I would say, if you're truly in startup mode, be lean and be agile. Yes. Don't take on more overhead than you can handle.
Don't be hiring someone to empty the garbage cans. You can do
Do
that
it yourself. Exactly. Be willing to wear many hats.
That's what bootstrapping's all about.
Exactly.
Right.
So be willing to do many, many jobs, wear many hats, and don't get frustrated by it because it's frustrating all the way till the very end. And I think hire good people, like you said, because you're only as good as the people around you, and they're the ones who keep you afloat. And then the last thing is
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
make sure you pay people and make sure you pay them
course.
well, because
Yes.
that's what helps keep them inspired as well.
Marsha, you had a focus thing on startups?
Stay focused, for gosh sake. The word pivot is what people use when they've started a project, but it's just not happening. They can't get the finance. But if you believed in it enough and you know it's a good idea, rather than pivot, why not think about why it isn't working? What are you doing? Remember, responsibility lives with you. What are you doing to make this project happen? And with enough inner thinking, you're going to find direction. And you'll realize whether maybe it was a bad idea and I should pivot, but the easy way is, I'm going to pivot. No, if it was a good idea in the beginning, think about what you're doing wrong.
I'm going to build on that, on what Marsha just said, which is, yes, definitely, it's okay to pivot,
Right.
but it has to be based on something.
Right.
And so touch base with as many people in the space that you're looking to grow this idea as you can. Get as much feedback as you can. Buy everybody you know coffee, get one-on-ones, just get that feedback, especially if you're looking for funding. Reach out to the investment community. People are looking for solid companies, and people invest at all levels of idea, even pre-Series A up until, BC, et cetera, rounds. There's an investor out there for you, even, at the angel level. Just get lots of feedback, and as soon as you start to see patterns, try to figure out, okay, what insights am I getting from all this feedback? So for me, I'm very big on data, and this data just means gathering information. It's as simple as that. And this could be, we're in a digital world, which is very data driven, and we are, so we're now trained to think that way. And this is a great way to actually gather the information you need in order to see what direction your business can take and what traction it can have.
But for real experts who maybe are too busy to sit on the phone with you for a long time, I did this 10, 20 years ago. I worked with certain companies that I believed in, and they gave me, little couple shares or whatever, 1,000 shares or whatever. You know what? One of them's in a unicorn now. And I just had shares bought from SoftBank, and they haven't gone public yet. So that work that you can invest in when you have the time, or get these people to help you, give them a couple shares, give them 100 shares, depending on how, before you're public, so they can grow with you, and they will remain invested with you. I've been close to these companies for over a decade, and when they have a question, they call me. And now it's paying off, and that's kind of fabulous. So ask people and offer equity as payment.
Before we are kind of at, I want to make sure that everybody gets your Twitter handles one more time. We have at Borrow Advertising, at Marsha Collier, at Debra Lynn Fine, at Erin K217, at Astrology Zone, and at Ronjini. So, because some of you weren't here at the very beginning when we did that, I want Susan to be able to show the gorgeous calendars that
those
she
are
brought,
gorgeous.
because she sells these on her site, but she also gives them to reporters as a thank you. So they're astrology calendars, beautifully illustrated.
Now, I write every word, and the readers know my voice. And they hang this on the wall, and they know which days. Like, you go up to Elle or Vogue, or I'll send boxes up so that every editor has it. But I send it to the reporters. I would say I send 900 calendars a year now. This was last year's edition. I'm working with this artist again, Isaac. He does the Skinny Girls for Henry Bendels in New York. You might know Henry Bendels.
Yeah.
And now we found that some people didn't have enough space. Sagittarius is awfully nice. By the way, I worked with the artist. I cut out photos here's the seductress little Scorpio here.
Want to see, want to see.
Libra had such a hard time that I said, you've got to do a great job. So her gown goes all the way to October 17th. You know, she's very social, but she was having a hard time in 216. But then we listened to the readers, and they wanted a little planner. Now, this is only a prototype. 1 week at a time. We're going to have art throughout, but the artist had to go to the hospital and have a kidney operation in the middle of the project, but he's home now. You know what? People are more important to me than anything. And it's funny, when we start the project, the agent always says, well, what's the deadline? I said, I hate that word. I'm not going to do that to you, Isaac. You're just going to work. And everybody there has a nervous breakdown when I say things like that. And I live with deadlines all the time, but I hate the name. I hate the word. I hate it. Just makes me worried. So I refuse to do it to other people. But he's working on it now. We're almost ready to go to press on everything because the creative director's out here. But this has
Thank
been
you,
nice
Susan. I'm
to
really
have
sorry we're
on
over
the walls
time.
of the reporters.
That's
When
great.
someone calls me and says, you know, you have to realize they could have called anybody. Thank you for thinking of me. I need your name and address for our press list, and let me send you my new calendar, because the people really like it. And I put a little handwritten note in it with my business card. And it's just friendly. I like to give presents. I do. I'm writing the year ahead,
So
2018.
we have nobody's coming into this room after us, so you can talk to the speakers will all still be here. You can come up and exchange cards and talk to them and so forth. And thank you very much for being with us.